Cool. We've got some new people here this time. So, yeah, excited to have everyone join. Don, I don't think we've seen you before. How's it going? Cool. Well, why don't we go? The first part will just be like some background. So if people join late, it won't be the biggest deal if they miss. So, let me move my microphone too. Greg, Andre, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sweet. All righty, let's do it. Quick resituation. All right, so in the last, so today we're going to be focused on security and then deploying an app. So in the last 3 sessions, we've kind of built out all of the core features for, everyone new. We've been building a platform for hosting and selling micro courses. So again, these are like, I think 5-minute courses. We're not really focusing on these sessions too much on the actual content side of like that being the robust part of the platform, but we were able to, we've been able to build a kind of the admin login experience. So an admin can log in, they can create and manage courses. Then our index page shows a list of, that should say a list of courses that someone can purchase. There's like, you can click on a course, takes you to a page. We did the whole purchase flow. We built out a Stripe webhook. We'll kind of revisit that today as we talk about deploying. Then we built for users the ability for them to view the courses they've purchased, view the content, and then we also added the functionality that a user gets a welcome email after they sign up. So as I mentioned, today we're really going to be focusing on, this app's kind of ready to deploy, but really the most important thing we haven't done yet and needs to be done before you deploy an app is set up database security rules. So we're going to talk about those today. Luckily, this app gives us the ability to do some more complex rules. And then we're going to, we're going to deploy this app for the first time. We'll talk about how all of that works. So let's do it. Let me switch over to the editor and I feel like I just stopped sharing my screen. Can you see my screen, Greg?
Not yet.
All right, let's toggle this. Nice. Okay, so just as kind of a quick refresher,
this is our zooming in, just 1 or 2 stops, please. Yep, perfect.
Nice. All right, so this is our index page. We've got, just a basic hero section, and we've got these courses that we've added. Let me log in as our admin user. So if I go to our admin page, we can see that we have the courses that we've added to our database. We can create courses. So these are the courses the admin has added. On our index page, they show up for someone to see. They can click view details and click buy now and go through the buying process. Then let's switch over to our user. And if we go to our dashboard page, we can see the courses that me as a user have bought. And when I click view course, hold on, I was testing some of our stuff before. Let me make sure I didn't accidentally leave any of these on. Yeah, okay. I think we should be good. Okay, so when I go to our, we'll go back to those security rules in just a second. When I go to view a course, I can see the course details page, right? The content, here's the video that's been added. All right, so that's the basics of the app. So again, the thing that we haven't done yet, so feature-wise, we're pretty much, this app's workable. People can purchase. We're adding some front-end checks. So if I'm not logged in, I can't come to the dashboard page. Only the admin can go to the back end, to our admin page. But we're not secure in like a data sense. So like even though, so I think this is an important part, that if you come from a different platform or you've built some software before, this will make perfect sense. You probably have already understood this, but if you're new to software development, this is maybe a new concept. Just because you maybe add a check in your, like on a page to say the user can't view this dashboard page that we're looking on, that doesn't mean that someone who knows what they're doing couldn't come and still access all the data that this dashboard page is loading. Because of the way that Raydian works, we make it really easy to load and view data directly from your front end. We need to add security rules that are basically kind of like that the database will use when it loads data to tell it, okay, yes, this person can see these rows or they can't. So they kind of act like filters. So let's just, let's go look at them. All right, so here are the 4 tables this app uses. So course is like, these are the public courses that people can see and people can buy. Then we have course content. This is the specific, this is the specific, like the text content and the YouTube URL connected to a course. Then we have obviously our user table. And then we've got this user course table, which is used to basically, it keeps track of which courses a user has purchased. So like these correspond to this user has bought this course, this user's bought this course, this user has bought this course, if that makes sense. All right, so let's go to our course table and let's go to our security tab. So the first thing we want to do is enable row level security for our course table. So I can turn that on. And now if I go to our Canvas tab, and this will probably break some stuff, we can see that like no courses showed up. If I go to our index page, we're not loading any courses. So again, we didn't change anything about the logic of our page. This is we've enabled row level security. So now that means our database is filtering the data. And because we haven't set up any rules, by default, once you turn it on, no one can access anything. No one can create courses. No one can view courses. It's as secure as it could possibly be. So let's go back to our course. We've turned it on. So the first policy we need is that these courses are actually, they're public, right? Like anyone not logged in on our index page should be able to see these courses. So I'm just going to say anyone should be able to view a course. Cool. And so this made a this made a security policy for me for reading data. And like, well, this is using like SQL. What it's showing you is the actual like SQL that your query is using to filter. And in this case, it's using 1, which you can think of as being like true. It's like a shortcut in SQL, specifically SQLite. But now with that on, if we go to our page, we can see that, all right, our course is loaded again. So now that functionality is there. But let me log back in as a admin. Let's go to our admin page and let me try creating a course. So if I create a course, and unless Raydian has an issue, I should be able to click create course, and this shouldn't let me create it. Okay, cool. So as an admin, like we tested this in our last sessions and that worked, but here it didn't let us create this course because we don't have a row level security policy that lets us do that. So if I come back here to our backend under a course, go to security, let's add a new policy, and we can say in admin should be able to create a course. All right, sweet. So now if we look at this policy, we can see that we're saying that the user is admin. So sorry, let's just go look at our columns. A user we have this is admin column on our table. And so if we go to our core security page, again, the SQL, like, you don't really need to know what it means. I'm going to kind of explain it in this call, but like, if you're curious what this does, you can just click explain. It'll explain to you what the security rule does. And like, you're going to use natural language to build these things. And then if you like, really want to, we're showing it to you because it's kind of like, what else should we show you? But if you're worried about the SQL, you don't really need to worry about it, right? These things will mostly just work. We're going to go test in our app. If it doesn't work, we'll come back and we'll adjust it. So, all right, this is saying that our user is admin is equal to 1 or true. So if I go back to our admin page now, and I click create course, testing remote security, we'll add a price of $50. Just kind of enter in some dummy data there. Let's click create course. And all right, so that didn't work. I'm going to come here and see what we're getting. All right, it says create row prevented by security rule. So that security rule wasn't exactly what we want, which is okay. I'm actually kind of glad that happened because, again, this will happen most of the time. I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen most of the time, but if it does, like, AI is not perfect. We'll need to know how to debug and fix. So if I go, I think part of the issue might be, and good question, Josh. I think I am logged in. I don't think if I wasn't a user, I don't think if I was an admin, I would be able to see this page. So I think I am logged in as an admin user, but let's check. So if I go to user and I go to this user, it is marked as true. So let's go back and
quick question.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe enable row level security on course content as well?
Sure. Let's do that.
Admin create and read.
Sure. Then only in admin should be able to create. And then we could also say that only in admin should be able to delete. And then we actually need more people than just an admin to be able to view these, because once someone purchases a course, so I think we'll come back to this one because I kind of wanted to explain how it's kind of probably the most complex security rule we'll need to make.
I suspect it might work now because I noticed I think both tables are being populated with data.
Okay, well let's check. My suspicion is, and I think this is maybe, again, maybe something we'll need to fix wholesale about making the agent better. It's saying equal to 1. And I have a suspicion that the data in our user table is being stored as like an actual true false value. Okay, let's see if we can. So I'm just going to delete this rule and let's try it again and say in admin can only in admin can create a course if the value if is admin is true. So hopefully it'll actually still giving me a 1. So if you're just for the sake of this call, I could keep using AI, but for the sake of this call, I'm going to come here and if you really want to edit manually this SQL, you can double click. Again, I would expect that most of the time you don't need to do this. I'm just going to come here and say true. This might need to be in quotes. And again, our AI should have gotten this. And I actually don't remember what the rule was, but like an hour before this call, I went through and did this full flow and didn't get any issues. So yeah.
Yeah, I can say I've never actually run into issues with row level security in tons of apps. So this is something new, I feel.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't just yeah. I'm like, now I'm wondering if because I went through and did everything in this app, I accidentally like left something on that's breaking this, but all right. Oh, okay. So cool. So we got through we got further that time. So we can see that the our course was able to be created, which is good, but you can see there's like no content there. So what that means is our course content was not able to be created. So we probably just need the same check of true, and that will fix it. Again, I will go, after this call is over, I'm gonna go like see every single log and figure out why it's getting these wrong, and hopefully you guys will never have this issue. But yeah, so I think that would have fixed our issue, but let's just keep going. So we have our security rule now for creating for admin content, but let's talk about this course content section, because the security rule will probably be the most complex one that we have. So if we're thinking about who can view course content, so really someone who can view course content, and this is where it gets a little confusing, is if the user, the currently logged in user, has and we'll go to the data so you can see it. If the currently logged in user has a user course table where the course, the course ID matches the course ID of the course content, then you should be able to see it. So it's kind of confusing even just saying it, but that's like, this is, and again, building lots of apps, this is probably there's kind of the reason we structured it this way is because we wanted to show kind of the most complex a security rule can get. So let's see how it does. So again, if I come here, I should say a user can see a course content. I'll just use the actual table name, content, if they have a user course with the same course as the course content. Okay, so that's a pretty complex rule. I guess we should have gone and tested this before we made the rule so we could like show that it didn't work. But okay, so we have this kind of crazy rule that was just written, and I'm just kind of perusing it. Again, like you wouldn't have to do this. That looks like it's right to me. So if I go to my Canvas page, and let's log in as my user now, and go to dashboard. Okay, so I can see the courses that I've clicked, and if that security rule was correct, then I should be able to click on this course and see the content. And we didn't, so let me just click on another one and make sure that we're... Okay, so that one worked. And let's go here. Okay, cool, and that one worked. So I actually think let's go look at this data science fundamentals one. I think when we were testing these features and we had the webhook come in, we had one of our bugs was that this user course didn't get set up correctly. And so if we look at, this user, I think they have I think it's connected to a course content that doesn't exist. I think it is this one. So I actually think our security rules were working correctly, which is good. So like, again, we had some weird data that had gotten saved when we were in the process of building this app, but so far it works. So again, like these two courses are set up correctly and they're allowing us to view the course content. This one is not. And when we click on it, we're not actually able to view the course content. So our security rule actually seems to be working right. Let's just for the sake of like sanity and to kind of prove that it worked, let's go. I'm gonna double click this and just like save this just so I have it. But then I'm gonna delete it. And now let's go back to our app here. And if this worked, if I click this, now I can't see one of the courses that was set up correctly. So again, this is like, someone's trying to get in and view your course content before you actually have given them permission. This is saying like at the database level, this isn't like really code on our page. This is like at a fundamental securities level, this user does not have access to this content. We'll come back. I'm going to add a policy. Write out that long thing I wrote before. A user should only see course content if they have because I don't need to narrate. Cool. And that's actually a different security rule than we got before. So hopefully hopefully what I said was as clear as the first time I said it. But let's go test it. Maybe it still works. Back to our course page. Nice, that worked because here I can see the course that we just bought. Now I can see these courses again. And if I click this one, can't view the course. Sweet. Okay, so that is all pretty good. I guess the last thing we need to do is we'll add some security rules to the user. So I think we'll want to say only a user can edit themselves. I guess we would want to maybe just say like that.
I'm going to be updating the documentation soon with common security rules written in English that you can just apply to your tables as well. So common scenarios all the way down to the advanced one. Yeah, they should be live in about a week.
Yeah. All right. So the different kinds of security rules, you can see that we've got like update, read. So if you're, again, we have different levels of background here. If you're familiar with software development or, even just a little bit, you may have heard this word called CRUD, which stands for create, read, update, and delete, which are kind of like the main things you can do to data. You can create a row in your database. You can read a row in your data, meaning reading just like see. You can update, and then you can delete a row in your database. And so you can write security policies when you write a natural, like when you just say, I want a policy like this, it's going to pick which action you're taking. So that's what's saying, like, this one applies to when someone's trying to read data. This one's applying to when someone's trying to update data. And yeah, we could keep going, and we could add them for all of the rules. Cool. Don, I see that you just asked something. Is that a question?
Yeah, Don asks if we use Supabase for the backend.
Good question. No, we don't. But I'm assuming you're asking because if you've come from a Supabase world, you probably have heard of this term row-level security before. This is it's a feature built into databases and Supabase that, frankly, a lot of people never used, and until Supabase kind of made it popular. But we do something very, very similar. So it's the same kind of idea. The way ours work are a little different because we don't. The Raydian database is not a Postgres database like Supabase is. So it works a little bit different, but like on a technical level. But conceptually, it's exactly the same. You're setting rules. Those rules are written in SQL, and they're controlling who can have access to your data. And again, these happen at like the lowest level to make sure your data is secure. So great question.
So just to summarize very quickly, when you create a table, that data is public. When you click add policy, all that data is now restricted. It's on the server, you can't get to it. You have to then enable access to that data through these particular rules. So the way we like to think of these rules is they permit access to data rather than restrict access to data people shouldn't have. They permit access to data that users should be able to access.
Yeah, good point, Greg. And I'll just add one extra note to that. We actually, security is obviously very, very important when you're ready to deploy an app. The last thing you want is to deploy an app and then a month later you find out that all of this data that users thought was secure is like not secure and all this stuff. But one of the issues, so we had talked about, well, then let's just make it so that when you first start out, like everything in the app is like, can't access any data. Let's make it secure and make people go set those policies. And these are some of the trade-offs you have to make. The issue with that is when someone comes into an app and they start working on features, security is frankly really boring for most people. And especially if you're new, you're gonna you just want things to be able to work and to load. And because row-level securities can be so like overarching and control so much, it just turned into this bad experience when you're starting your app. And really, when you get, like most of the time when you get started, the data in your database is not that important. It's like fake rows, fake users, all of that. And so we've tried to give this kind of best of both policies by saying, all right, by default, like when you first create an app, we don't actually enable row-level security on a specific table. And like, it's the right mode for testing features and kind of building your app. But as soon as you come and like click enable row-level security for this table, it actually just flips. Instead of everything being open, now nothing is accessible as soon as you click that button. And you've got to give policies that will give people permission, if that makes sense. So yeah, again, we take security really seriously. We think it's like fundamental to helping. We say this in every call. Our North Star is, how do we actually help users get users? Like, our users need to be able to deploy apps. If all people are using Raydian for is like prototypes and things that never see the light of day, we feel like we've failed in building this product. And so security is a massive part of that. And we will have, I am sure, lots of updates to this, whether that's reminders before you deploy for the first time and making sure that you've enabled row-level security. We'll have better AI agents that are good at like helping you to debug your app and figure out what actually needs to be, what policies should be sent. It sounds like we got a suggestion to be able to make multiple policies in a single request. Was that just asked?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Admins can.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another great idea. I'm sure we will add soon. But again, we've tried to because they're so important, it's one of those things that we almost, at least I didn't. Again, it's like a hard balance, but I almost didn't want to make they give agents the ability to like go and just do it all for you, as much as as nice it would be, just simply because you know, it's security by nature is kind of boring. I wanted someone to kind of just think about it a little bit more, and you know, just spend a little bit of brain power kind of making, you know, remembering, oh, I actually did set this, rather than the agent going and setting all these security rules. You missed it. You spend forever debugging your app when really it was because some security policy was adding some filter to your data and you thought stuff was broken. So
a silver lining to the bug earlier is at least
Yep.
the bug didn't allow you access to data.
Yeah.
Once you flip the switch, that was it. Your data is protected. So that's good.
Yeah. Good point. Again, that's why we did it that way. Like if your rules aren't set up right, the issue will be that users can't get data, which from a security perspective, like that's obviously a big bug, but from a security perspective, that's better than like everyone can access anything. All right. Any other questions for security rule? Happy to go into more detail, Greg or Andre, as I've been talking. Anything that you guys think is worth covering?
Course content. I think we're good for now.
Okay.
I mean, what I use, my pattern is usually, I try to usually set up security policies quite early. Obviously, we wanted specifically to leave this to the end.
Yeah.
But I would usually have a table created, then I'd set up my security policies as soon as possible, which obviously means I might tussle with the notion of, is this a logic issue or is this a security issue? But just having those in place before I even sort of get started on work is, I feel like, a better approach.
Yeah. We would recommend doing this early. Okay, so I guess the last thing I'll go into, and we're going to kind of get into workflows now as part of the deploy process, but there are some crazy cases where it's almost like impossible to define the row level security policy in a simple line that like in a way that you need your app. Again, I would say 95% of apps, probably this won't be an issue, but I just wanted to bring it up in case you are in that 5%. And I'm trying to think of an example. So probably the most common case this will come up is, let's say you're building a feature where let's say you're building a feature where users can have profiles and profiles can have usernames. And the way you've architected it is that only every username needs to be unique, right? So like, kind of like think about a lot of social networks, only usernames can be unique. And then you have this functionality that like profiles can be private. And then let's go to the feature where someone can be able to rename change their username. So we need the ability to go and check if a username exists in our database. So someone says, I want my new username to be Gregory John. And we need to go check that there is no user already with that username. But we don't necessarily want to just like make all of our user profiles public, right? So it's like, in this case, we need the app to be able to go and check, but we don't really want like our users to be able to load every profile in our app. So what's the escape hatch? This is probably one of the more useful use cases for why you will use a backend workflow. And I guess this is like important to call out. Backend workflows, they run on the server. Our backend workflow agent is good at adding all the auth checks and things that need to be in there. But row level security policies don't apply to a backend workflow when it goes and fetches data. So this is and again, I'm saying that might sound a little bit scary, but like this is the best practice. This is how, in the world of software development, you would build this feature. When your backend workflow queries data, it's not filtered by those same ones that are coming from when a user logged in is like requesting data from the front end of your app. So if I was building this feature of needing to check usernames, I would actually do it as a backend workflow. I would write a backend workflow that I can take a username. It can go and see if there's another username, another user with that username in our app, and then return just like true or false. Can the user use this username? True. Can it use a username? False. And that's all done again because these backend workflows run on in the back end away from the users. That's a secure place to do it. We've tried, again, with our agents, we've tried to kind of give them some examples. That very example we've just given of when you'll need to use a backend workflow. And so hopefully they'll be good at setting it up. But something to keep in mind, if you're like, I don't think I can fetch this data I need or allow people to edit this data I need using, like, I can't logically explain how this row level security rule should work because it seems like they conflict or something like that, then again, you have backend workflows that can do that logic for you. So hopefully that will be useful if you ever need it. Again, I would think 95% of apps won't be an issue, but just in case that comes up. I'm going to move on to talking about deploying unless there were any more questions. I did see the little chat bubble pop up a couple times. Greg, anything worth calling out or talking to the whole group on?
I think we're okay. Josh and I are just talking about how we've architected and charged for AI usage around the app, like main chat compared to RLS, compared to database, that kind of thing. But that's nothing more to discuss there.
Okay, cool. All right, so we've built this app. We've done row level security. We've done all of that, and we're now ready to deploy. So let's talk about the process. So in our last call, we talked about the different like domains or URLs you'll be thinking about in your app. I'm just going to go through them real quickly. So when I am editing my app, there is a version of my app which is rendered inside this little preview of my page. This URL, if you click the preview button in the top right, you guys can't see the new tab that opened, but you'll see it says like preview.raydian.dev. And it'll have like the ID of your branch, then preview.raydian.dev. Okay, so your preview URL is always up to every time you reload the page, it's going and getting all your code, it's recompiling it. Like it is always going to be the latest changes you have made in this branch. So it's like, that's why it was if the agent makes an edit for you, the page reloads, you're seeing the changes. This is where you're like doing your development work. At some point along the process though, you're going to be ready to, a lot of our users are agencies, or you're going to be working with like other people you're going to be building your app with. You're going to want to go and view your app specifically, like how it's really going to look as it's deployed. So the second URL is these testing URLs, what we call them. So I can, if I click this button, this will deploy our app, but it's not going to deploy it to like my main URL. If I've connected the domain, this isn't like going live to my users. This is just going to make a testing URL for me. And again, you guys can't see the new page that opened, but these URLs are going to have the ID of my app and then like a little dash and then the name of my branch. So in this case, it's the ID of this branch is otter blue hoverfly, and then -dev, and then it's .apps.raydian.dev. So this version, this testing URL is exactly as your app is going to be if it was deployed to your users, but just not deployed to your users. We're just giving you another URL that you can send to, if you're working with a client, you can send it to them and say, all right, test, make sure that this is, yes, deployed to staging. If you're coming from a, we have different backgrounds. You may have heard the concept like deploy to staging or like a staging URL. That's what these are. So these are like URLs you can test on. They have all your data. They're connected to your branch, but it's a way to test a Yeah, nice. It's a way for you to preview your app before you're ready for it to go live. And then when you're actually ready to deploy your app, you're going to come here and click this button. You can write a little message about what happened. This is like our first deploy. And you can deploy this branch to main. So what's going to happen is this is going to take everything that's on this branch and it's going to deploy it and then like copy it over to your main branch. And I'll do that and then we'll talk about branching for a second.
Also, just a quick bit on data as well between branches.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Sweet. All right, so that project was deployed. So if I go now and look at my backend, we'll see that I've got all of my tables or now in my main branch. And actually, let's just do this. This is like the main URL that your app's deployed to. This one, and then when you connect a domain, these will always point to the same thing. So I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to go to that page, and then I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see it. Okay, so this is now like my fully deployed app, like that my users will see. I can go to my login page. I could sign up, but you're going to see no courses yet. So your every branch in Raydian has its own, you can basically think about it as like its own version of your database. So when you're building your app, you're gonna add a bunch of like fake data, like those courses. Let's go to our dev branch. These courses I added, really helpful for testing, but if I was building a real app, like I don't want these dummy fake courses in my app. Or as you're building new features, you're gonna like want to put data in weird positions. You're going to make fake data. And so it's one of the cool features about Raydian is that we actually give you like replica databases. We let you branch your data with your database between your different branches. So the only thing, again, it's like the right way to do it. The only thing to keep in mind though is in a situation like this is, I just realized I'm not share my whole screen. All right, sorry, came here, back to my dev branch. These dummy courses that I've added, they are, this is what I was talking about. The AI made these for me. They were useful for testing, but like I don't want my users seeing these courses. So in my live app, what I really want is it's almost like you can think about it like initially it's kind of like a fresh start, but this is going to be all of your live data. So now I have the chance to go in and like, okay, these are actually the courses I want my users to see. This is, I can test with all these different users without them actually getting into my production data. So just keep that in mind. The reason we are seeing, when I go to my deployed URL, the reason we're seeing no courses yet is because there's no courses in my admin database yet. The next step I would do is I would go sign up. I'd go mark myself as an admin, and then I'd actually go add the courses I really wanted in this database. Anything else to touch in there, Andre, Greg, or questions from those watching about just sort of other platforms do this, so hopefully it's not too foreign, the idea of like having a development and a production database, but happy to explain more if.
Yeah, maybe you could explain a little bit. If you have multiple branches, do they each have their own database, or is it just production and staging databases?
Yeah, another good question. So yeah, each of your branches. So once you upgrade a project, we let you actually, on the free plan, you really can just only operate in dev. We don't let you fully deploy your app. But once you've upgraded your project, you can do a deploy like we just did, and you can create multiple branches. I'll try to touch on this real quick. We talked about it last time, but so the reason you need multiple branches, if you don't have users, you don't need multiple branches because you can just deploy, and if stuff breaks, like, oh, well, you'll fix it. But once you get users, you start having development workflows that look like users have requested this big new feature, and you're like, all right, that's going to take me a week to build. I'm going to go start working on that. And I'm going to make it. What we would recommend is you make a branch, start to work on that feature, and you can in the process of working on this feature, you end up like having to break some pages and some features. Like that's just the way software development works. This feature is not complete. So let's say you're 2 days into this 5-day build of building this new feature, and a user sent you a message and is like, oh, I just discovered this really big bug and like I can't use your app until you fix it. Please, can you fix it for me? Well, if you didn't have multiple branches, you'd be stuck being like, I have to go now finish this entire new feature and fix that bug before I can deploy because my app's like in a broken state. How can I go fix this bug? Well, with branches, you can just go make a new branch, go fix that. And every time you make a new branch, it's a clone of what's on your main branch, like of what your users are currently seeing. So you just go clone the branch, go fix that bug. You can deploy deploy that branch, which will just have those bug changes. And then when you come back into your feature branch where you're building that new feature, you can finish that. We have a flow of how you'll sync those changes back into that branch. And then when that's ready, you can deploy that. So again, that's not a feature you'll run into or need until you really start getting users. But we've tried to think through, okay, again, our North Star, helping people really get users and ship apps. That's a feature you need when you've actually deployed. All right, sweet.
So when I make a branch, my production data will be on that branch?
Not unless no. So that's a good question. So we did have a feature initially where when you made a branch, we just copied all of your main data. This is actually a feature that I have on my roadmap we need to make much simpler. But then we started getting into use cases where you'd be working on like a user sign up flow or something or testing some feature, and we copied your user table over. And so like your real users with their email address were getting like emails that you didn't really want, right? Or like, some integration that caused some issues. So we decided to make it a little bit more manual. And again, like we will have a new feature coming out in like less than 24 hours. So it'll make this much easier. But essentially when you clone a branch, it's just like a brand new copy of your database. Everything's empty, but then you'll be able to kind of pick and choose the data that you want to pull over from your main branch into your tables, and it'll just get copied over.
Perfect. I think that answers Jan's question as well, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, so cool. So the main branch is the single source of truth. Whenever we create a branch, it's pulling main branch code and creating it. I think in Bubble, you can create branches from dev branches.
Yeah.
In Raydian, we create branches from the main branch.
Yep.
And that means hotfixes are super easy.
Yeah. And branching can get confusing, like just even the mental model if you're not used to it. So we try to think through how can we make it as simple to understand? And one of the kind of the core principles that we wanted was, if I deploy a branch, I want to be 100% certain that like the branch that I was just testing and all the features that were there, that's what my users will see. So you guys should know that. Like when I deploy my dev branch, all of the way my code works, there's no situations where I'm working on some feature on dev and I've deployed it and there was like some other feature for some other branch got deployed. So then by the time it actually got to my users, there was like some weird overwritten thing and something's broken. If you've worked on a feature, you've tested it in your testing URL, and then you deploy it, that will be exactly what your users see. And you don't have to worry about there being like weird conflicts by the time your users actually use those features. And then, yeah, we have some stuff coming out to the documentation soon, I think, right, Greg, that shows the sync flow. If your branches get out of sync, we have a way to sync them all back up and resolve it. So by the time you can't even, if your branch is out of sync, we don't even let you deploy it, is maybe the easiest way to say it. So before you can deploy, we make you kind of like sync it all up to make sure you've gotten all the changes. You can test with everything that needs to be tested, and then you can deploy your branch with the confidence that it works and all of the latest features are there. Cool. So Sure. I think we're getting a lot of questions. Josh, do you have another question? Me. Sorry, I'm looking at like the little teeny version.
Yeah,
of
I can read it out. Yeah. So
Sure.
one practical question about this app specifically, it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like a Stripe transaction ID is being stored in the user course table. Is it being stored anywhere in the app? So I mean, I can answer this.
Yeah.
Josh, what I would do is when I ask Raydian to create me a Stripe checkout session, I would also say, please create me a transactions table, and then capture all of the relevant data from the webhook to record these transactions against a user.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. We actually don't we need to get into explain how this works. So let's just do that. So this process course payment, the way this works is we create a Stripe. The way our payments work in this app is we create a Stripe checkout URL, and we just add the metadata of what the user ID is and the course ID that they're trying to purchase. And so let's see if this even calls it out for us. The payment session, okay. And then it returns the checkout URL. And then when we're going to talk about this in just a second. And then when we get the Stripe webhook, you can see we're validating the metadata field. And then this is like where we're checking for an existing user course record. We're taking the metadata directly from the Stripe checkout session. And if we get a successful payment for this user in this course, we're just creating the user course record. And that's how we're keeping track that they bought something. You are right that, it's probably a good idea to store like either the session ID or something like that, just for like records and wanting to go debug if we have an issue later. But in this case, that's how we got around it. We didn't need it.
Yeah, personally, I do like to capture as much Stripe data as possible and whack it into a dashboard so I can track it on a chart or something. And that's, you just need to ask for it really. And Raydian will know what to return.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about webhooks. So we talked about there's kind of 3 different URLs. When I was testing and we set this up, let me just go over into my Stripe sandbox now. So when in a previous session, we set up this webhook, I came into Stripe and set this up. And you can see my destination here. So this is where it's going to. And you can see my domain is this first part. Let me zoom in here. This first part is like the idea of my app, but then I've got -dev. So this is the testing URL for my dev branch, which worked for us testing. But now when I was ready to go live, I need to go now update Stripe to use my actual deployed URL. So the way I do that is I'm in my main branch, right? I know this is the same webhook. So if I come into Stripe, I'm just going to go over to, I'm going to add a destination. Oops, is that edit destination? Yeah, there we go. Then destination, add a destination. Again, this is just like Stripe documentation. I think all I added was the checkout session. Checkout session completed. Continue. We want to go to a webhook. And then I want just the, oops. Let's get this from here. I want this same URL. So got to go reset that up. All right, checkout session completed. Continue, webhook. I want this same URL, but I just can delete the dev part off of it, the branch part. And that is my production URL. I could have gotten that URL from here. We give it to you as well. And, if you open up your app, view app, you'll see it as well. But all right, so back into Stripe, this is like,
obviously, if it was a custom domain, it would be yourdomain.com /API.
Yep. But one of the nice, so yeah, you can use your custom domain, and you probably want to. Sometimes even with the custom domain, I'll still use this. Like I'll still use this
Interesting.
URL. Just that URL will always still work. And sometimes I'll like be setting up my app before I've set up my custom domain. And so I'll just use like the Raydian domain that it gives me, just so that I don't have to like go back and switch it later. I can build that feature. It's fine. It'll work. You don't have to worry about it. But you certainly can use your domain.
I shall update the documentation then.
Yeah. So that Raydian URL will always be there. All right. So we set that up. That is that's basically all I needed to do in Stripe. And again, if you're setting up payments, you know that's more of a Stripe docs thing. But that was everything I needed to do to deploy my app. I needed to click deploy. I'll need to now go log in and make myself as an admin and all of that. But for now, I think it's good. Any other questions about the deployment process, different URLs?
So to test,
we're kind of right at time. Yep.
To test Stripe webhooks, I want to be testing from the dev branch. We can create another branch and then update the URL in Stripe, but we'd rather just test from the dev branch. And for main, we just remove the word dev and we're good.
Yep. Just the name of the URL. And yeah, one nice thing about it is like if you delete those URLs are just the name of the branch. If you accidentally like delete your dev branch, just make another one and call it dev, and it'll have the same URL. So sweet.
Great. Thanks so much, Ryley. That
Cool.
was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. So this is, I know we're kind of right at time, so I'll just try to wrap up quick. This is going to be really the end of this app we've been building, this build session. We're going to keep doing these though, obviously, to help people. We want to help people learn how to build. We probably will experiment with different formats. I'd like these to be much more interactive. And I'd also love, I'd love to teach how Raydian works just with other users' apps. You know, like if you have a problem or want to build a feature, I'd love to get on a session like this and help walk through how to build a feature and how to debug. So yeah, keep your eye out for emails and stuff from us, and we will, yeah, I'm sure we'll have some more events coming up.
One last question from
Sure.
Carl. Carl asks, how confident are you, Ryley, that the platform is ready for live app deployments at this time?
Yeah, that's a
You
good
can talk about device here, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the benefits of Raydian is we've actually been building. So before Raydian was a thing, like the parent company of Raydian is a company called Devise, and we've been working on it for the past 4 years. We had been working on a no-code platform, non-AI based, and had built a whole bunch of infrastructure to actually handle deploying apps. And we went after a much more like medium to like enterprise type customer. Like these are businesses who are working with Amazon and Cisco, and like uptime's really, really important. And so we've fortunately been able to work out a lot of those quirks and then been able to pick the best vendors. So when you deploy an app on Raydian, it actually gets deployed. It's like not a secret. We use Cloudflare to deploy our applications, but it gets deployed on like 100% of its own infrastructure. So, other companies charge thousands of dollars for you to be on like a dedicated plan where you like have your own infrastructure. That just actually comes as part of your $39 a month plan on Raydian. And Cloudflare powers like 20% of the internet. So even if like once you deploy your app and it's running, even if we go down, our editor goes down, obviously that's bad and maybe you can't make changes, but like your deployed app won't go down. It's like not connected to our infrastructure anymore. And frankly, like if your app goes down, it's because Cloudflare's down. So like 20% of the internet's down, there's bigger issues than just your application. So yeah, that's actually one of the things we're probably most confident in is when you deploy your app, like our infrastructure is set up to scale, not to just like 10 users, but like literally hundreds of thousands to millions of users built on the infrastructure we deploy on. So good question.
Alrighty, guys.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks everyone for showing up. I think this was a good session. We ran into some issues, but glad we were able to sort them out. That's just the way, building apps goes. And yeah, keep an eye out. We'll hope we'll do a session like this soon. Hopefully a little more interactive, and we'll yeah, thanks for building on Raydian.
Thanks, guys. All the content is available in the community and on our YouTube channel.
Sweet.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.